Hello and welcome to a series of videos about Geo SCADA Expert, the remote SCADA and telemetry software from Schneider Electric. I'm Steve, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to do configuration with Geo SCADA and Excel. Geo SCADA's database uses tables which we call classes, and they have rows which are objects, and those objects or rows have columns or properties like any other, so that you can add rows to create new objects and modify column data to change item properties. So you could try to use simple tables to import and export most configuration, perhaps as a CSV file. But when you add the hierarchy of objects, hierarchy of classes and templates, and aggregate classes into account, a different technique can be so much simpler to use. You may, for example, need to create multiple instances of the same template or set the properties of a template. Enter the GS import spreadsheet, a simple way to create and modify Geo SCADA configuration. The spreadsheet is in the Geo SCADA knowledge base. Go to the community pages within the se.com website, then find the Geo SCADA knowledge base. It's on the tools page. Just scroll to the bottom to get a zip file containing the spreadsheet. There's a Word document there too, which explains the process. Open the Word document to get an explanation of the process. The spreadsheet is in a zip file because it has macros. You'll need to enable those macros using Excel's prompt. If you want to edit them too, then choose the Tools Options menu in Excel and customize the ribbon to enable the Developer tab. If you've installed Vuex on your PC, then the data access components are there already and good to go. But if you want the Excel macros to access the Geo SCADA server without having Vuex on the PC, then you can just install the data access components. Let's take a closer look at the spreadsheet. There are two worksheets. Let's look at the example first. On the left, there are import commands such as copy, create, and update. The body of the sheet contains a line of information for each command. The red comments and bold subheadings are ignored because there's no command on the first column. And at the top, there are fields for the system name, username, and password. The password is crudely hidden, so please remove passwords before you save the file. Finally, at the top right of the page, there's a button to action the import. Let's use the sheet to import some data. We'll go to an example. I'm using a Geo SCADA system with the default example database, so I can use some templates later. So you can see these are the folders that were imported automatically when that server was started. Going to the spreadsheet now, you can see that the system name is called systemd, which matches the system name in my tree, and I also have a valid username and a password. As again, please don't save the password in your file, but I've done some elementary hiding here. The button will cause import, but before I press it, let's just have a look at the import commands and data that I've put in. I'm going to start off by creating an item called Plant Area 1 inside the root group. That is of type C group, and I'll repeat that, creating a subgroup called Pump A within Plant Area 1. So you can see on the left hand side, this is the parent name of the item that we're going to be creating or manipulating. This is normally the item name in column C, and then in column D and onwards we've got further information such as the type of object that we're creating or the properties. As in column A, we have the command itself. I've made the commands bold, doesn't really matter, but I've also added a stop command after each group so that we can have a look and see how that works in the demonstration. So let's start off by clicking the import button. This is connecting to Geo SCADA and will import or create this first group inside the root. Going back to the tree, we can see that Plant Area 1 has now been created. It's created a default display or mimic. That's always happens with Geo SCADA, although you can actually control that with a registry setting. Let's go back to the spreadsheet, and you can see that it's marked this cell in green to indicate that it's been successful. If there was an error, it wouldn't be green, and there'd be a little comment placed in that cell with a little red triangle, and you can hover your mouse over to find out why it didn't execute that particular command. I'm going to remove the stop command and then click import again, and now it's going to create pump A within plant area 1, and here is pump A that's being created. And now go back to the sheet, we'll do that again, and it's going to create a DNP3 analog input point called speed. Again, here is the input point. It's got all of its default properties, so you'll see a little red X indicating that there's at least one error. It requires to be in service, there needs to be an outstation, and there needs to be a point number. So what I've done with the spreadsheet is now had a group of update commands, and the first one will use the outstation ID property and populate that with the name of a valid RTU for this type of object. If I'd used an invalid type, I'd come up with an error. On a separate line, just for clarity, I'm setting the point number to be 25 and the full scale to be 123. And then finally, we'll set in service to true. Now note that in each of these cases, we've got column E to be the name of the value of the property, column G to be the value of the next property. So we're alternating property name, value, property name, value. Pretty simple, just goes on to the right as far as you want. And then the individual property names, well, if I open the point again and just click on something such as outstation, you'll see down the bottom of the screen outstation ID, which is the name of the property you want to use. So let's now action this. I'll remove the stop command and run those 3 updates, and if I close and open the group, you'll see the error has gone and we're now in service. We have an outstation reference, there is a point number, and the full scale is now 123. Let's go back to the spreadsheet, and I've defined one more command, which is instance, which creates a template instance. Again, we have a parent name. This is the item name or instance group name, and then the template name that is being used to define that is in column D, the next column along. So click import. It's now going to instance that template. So open plant area 1. Now energy meter A has been populated from the instance. If I locate template, then you can see that that's where that instance definition came from. And so down the bottom, we've got all of the elements that are automatically belonging to that instance. So going back to the sheet again, those are just 3 of the commands: create, update, and instance, probably the commands that you'll be using most. But in the example, you can see there are a number of other commands. We've got the ability to enable an aggregate, such as enabling historic data, the ability to delete an item, use this with care, the ability to convert an object from one type to another, for example, from a DNP3 object to an internal manual analog point, and the same with converting templates. And there's the ability to move objects or groups from one place to another, to bulk set passwords. Again, you're advised not to leave passwords saved in Excel files, and also to create and update and modify value maps, which are used for outstation emulation within the Geo SCADA as a master. Okay, that is all we've got for what's in the spreadsheet, and we'll just have a little summary next. If you want to add new features or change the way this spreadsheet works, you can edit the VBA code yourself, for example to add more commands. I've shown you how this configuration import spreadsheet works. The power of it is now in your hands. You can super speed configuration using Geo SCADA templates, instances, and properties. You can use Excel formula if you need to, and as I've said, you can alter the script code if you want or need to as well. There's a lot to discover with Geo SCADA. Please keep in touch with our blog, knowledge base, and forums. Thank you.